Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I am Paul John Dykes, and I'm joined tonight by Chris McElwain for your second instalment of the Acsom Bulletin. It's match day. We're here to talk about Kilmarnock. We'll be looking at the previous encounters. Has that had anything to do with the team selection? We'll be looking at the starting 11s, the head-to-heads, the gaffer versus the gaffer, the implication of Celtic winning a point this evening. Chris, great to have you back. We know what the teams are. The teams have been announced. There's really only one surprise, and that's the one change, I guess, from the weekend's action. Apparently, Brendan Rodgers has put it down to the speed of the pitch. He doesn't think that Kyogo is suited to Rugby Park. We know it's a synthetic surface. What do you make of the team?
Well, I think apart from that one change, it's the team I would have went for. I'm a little bit surprised at taking Kyogo out, although I do kind of understand the reasons. And I think, again, one way to look at it is, okay, we're dropping, one of our superstars in Kyogo, and I hate to see it, but I think at the same time, a more physical presence in Ida, I think could be a useful, certainly in the early going in this game, because Kilmarnock can be a tough old team, and they can get in about you. So I'm hoping that Ida can address some of that aspect. But I also think, what a great weapon to have late in the game if we are looking for a goal, to bring someone with Kyogo's energy and actually his enthusiasm, because he'll not be happy at being left out tonight. I used to remember stories when Ange used to say he would climb into the kit bag to try and get on the bus and in the matchday squad. So it's one element I really like of Kyogo, and I think actually when he comes on, all he'll want to do is go in there and help the team and score. So that's not a bad wee weapon to have in your arsenal. I mean that in the nice sense of the weapon, not the Glasgow sense of the weapon. But but I think it's a good opportunity for Ida as well. Ida's got, for me, limited opportunities now to show that he's worth the investment in the summer. And what a better time to prove it in a game where we could clinch the league against what has been one of our most difficult opponents this season.
We'll be looking at the previous encounters. And Scoosh, just for your information, on any match day other than the big games against Rangers, we go 30 minutes before kick-off, my friend, and that looks like a very dry bap you've got there. I would be putting a wee bit of brown sauce on that one if I was you. But thank you for joining. You are watching on YouTube. We are also streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, X and Instagram, right across the board. And you can catch us later on tonight on all the audio platforms as well. Let us know your thoughts about tonight's teams. I'm going to be reading them out in a moment. Paddy Lavery, I absolutely love this. Positive thinking, folks. Positive vibes. Now, just before we came on live, Chris and I were talking about the community aspect of Celtic Football Club and also the way that Acsom's managed to build a community itself. And Paddy Lavery is proof of that. I will be with Paddy on Friday night in Dunoon. So if you think about that, Acsom's doing a gig in Dunoon due to our very good friend Ewan Martin, who is from that beautiful part of the world. I will report back and let you know how beautiful it is after Friday. And Paddy is coming over all the way from Ardoyne to join us. So there you go. Back in the day, Chris, if you met up with a couple of guys online, you were a bit of a strange cookie. But now it's absolutely acceptable. It's acceptable to do that, all for the love of Celtic and the fact that Acsom has built this 7-year-old platform that there's quite a lot to come as well. Ewan Boyd Martin comes in to say, in the memory of Tommy and Bobby, we will do them proud with a 4-0 win and be champions again. I'm all about the positivity. But going into this game, like you said, we've had some very difficult encounters against Kilmarnock this season. We were looking about it earlier on, about the teams, the lineups, the fact that we weren't able to go into any of these games with the solid, strongest starting 11 that I think we've seen take the field against Rangers. And now that we've got the starting 11, Brendan changes it. But I would make a point. Ida started the game that we drew 1 each against Kilmarnock. Ida started that game. We actually started with a slightly different formation where Kyogo and Ida both started in the match. Didn't quite work out, even though Kyogo opened the scoring, and we lost, I think, a 93rd, 94th minute equaliser to them. Made things a bit tense for a while, actually. And Bernabe was put on the naughty step, never to return from a bench somewhere in Brazil. So Ida starts, and I think we should open the conversation up about the previous encounters and the fact that up until recently we were calling Hearts a bogey team. and we've been calling Kilmarnock a bogey team. What is it about this side? Because I tried to put it down, Chris, to the fact that we weren't clicking as a team. Some of these games we had Novroski and Lagerbielk were the central defensive partnership when they put us out the cup. Nat Phillips was playing centre half the day they beat us 2-1 at Park when Matt O'Reilly had opened the scoring. So I can see issues with the team in the lineup. Today I don't see that.
No, we've spoken about it a few times. Some of the challenges the managers faced, and one of those being the lack of ability really to put on or availability rather to put on a consistent team. Just an inability to have the same central defensive partnership, to have the same midfield three, to have what I'd consider probably your first choice wingers on either side. I mean, there's been so much rotation and forced rotation throughout this team. It's very difficult to gain momentum within a side when you're having to chop and change all the time. And injuries happen. It's part of football. That's why you have a squad. And in fairness, and it'll be thrown back at us, we've got the resources and the ability to have the strongest squad in terms of depth and players available and that kind of thing. But it's challenging for any manager, even the best managers, when some of your top players are unavailable. I mean, we've been without players like Hatate for large parts of the season, which in some cases has resulted in almost a different player week on week trying to fill that spot. Sometimes it's necessitated Matt O'Reilly having to drop deeper, or Calmac having to play in a slightly different role from what he's used to. We've had guys who on the wings who are a bit inconsistent. We've had Palma out there, we've had Yang out there, we've now had Kuhn coming in and out, all to various degrees of success and frustration probably in equal measure. Maeda, one of our cult heroes, been out for long periods. And we've said it so many times this season, that lack of service to Kyogo, and actually by extension O and Ida when they have played, has been one of the most frustrating aspects to watch. In recent weeks, though, as we've started to get more of a settled side, and you can see we've started to gain that momentum. Still not perfect, still not gelling, as wonderfully as we'd like it to. But you've started to see that we're getting a bit of swagger back in the team. James Forrest, a bit familiar there, but James Forrest coming in and really kicking on and trying to drag this team forward. And actually, you see the difference he makes to some of the supply for the wing, to Kyogo. And I think tonight, potentially, Ida could really benefit from that. So, yeah, Kilmarnock's always been a tough team. Derek McInnes has always been quite an astute coach. They're a team that gets in around you, as I said, a bit physical, can play a wee bit of football as well. And they've got that pitch, which is just a nightmare for our style of play. It always has been. It results in injuries. For me, it's no place anywhere near Scottish football. I was kind of hoping by the virtue of the fact Kilmarnock are going to Europe, they might be forced to rip that damn thing up and get a proper pitch. But Kilmarnock come with their own set of challenges. But we are starting to address some of ours now by getting some of our key players back.
Yeah, without a doubt, to the point where you can make a decision and you can drop one of your most effective players in Kyogo. When you look at the previous encounters against these two clubs this season, what you got is one Celtic win, which was the opening league fixture. You've got the cup defeat where they've knocked us unceremoniously out of the League Cup, the first defeat that Brendan Rodgers had faced in any cup competition in Scotland. And of course, they beat us again. They beat us at Rugby Partner League game, the one that I mentioned when Nat Phillips scored an OG. And then there was the 1-1 game at Celtic Park, which I think heralded the end of Alexandro Bernabe's Celtic career. Let us know your thoughts. I'm going to read through the teams right now. Celtic start with Hart in goals, making his 701st senior club appearance. Incredible. Johnson at right back, making a really good recovery from that injury at the weekend after, the tackle that was never a foul, according to Kenny Miller and no one else, made him hobble about the park for another half an hour. But he has made it. He's a warrior. Left back, Greg Taylor, former Kelly player, often maligned and targeted, actually, on the back post. Hopefully he has a good game tonight. My best moment is Greg Taylor in a Kilmarnock jersey involved Joey Barton. And the two central defenders are Cameron Carter-Vickers and Liam Scales, making his 43rd appearance for Celtic this season. The midfield trio, the three best midfielders at the club, in my view, Matt O'Reilly, Callum McGregor and Rio Hatate. And then up top, as I said, Maeda starts, Forrest on the wing, either through the middle. And the Kilmarnock team is O'Hara, Mayo, Dees, Findlay, former Celtic, and Ndaba. Armstrong, Donnelly, Watson, and Kennedy, with Watkins and Vassell up top. A couple of those names have already been on the score sheet this season against Celtic. What's your thoughts in the comment section? James Pearson, 88. Great to hear from you, James. Ida is not a surprising choice, in James's opinion. We need that battering ram at these stodgy away grounds. I can see that. I get it. Allows the play to build up around him. Stephen Kennedy comes in to say Rodgers going for physicality up top. Tonight is the night for Adam Ida to make a name for himself and warrant a permanent move to our club. I think when all's said and done, and I hope we get that 1 point that we need, we'll look back on Ida's contribution favourably. You think about the Hibs game, you think about the Motherwell game, those important goals that he scored in those two games in particular, and his contribution has been very good, to the point where there is a question: do we buy him? Is that something for discussion in the summer? Perhaps it is. And I think that, there we go, my ball. Almost called you my bull. Who's on your avatar? Who is that? My ball says Ida saved our season. I'm inclined to agree with that, actually. And I think that there is this big discussion. Unchained comes in, Unchained Media Scotland. He's not worth the investment. Well, let's talk about that very briefly, right? Because he's starting the game, big talking point for tonight, Chris, right? What are we talking here? £6 million. What do you think you get for £6 million? Would be my answer. Now, you don't actually get, because this is sometimes the response, you don't get Jota or Carter Vickers, because that was 2 years ago. So £6 million is a different, bounty now than it was 2 years ago. I think he probably is in that ballpark if you have to go and buy him. The question is, do you think, good response. Question is, do you think he's worth it? Chris, what's your take on that?
Well, first of all, apologies. Someone's ringing my bell rampantly. I'm not entirely sure. It's probably kids trying to get the ball. It's for me. I think you're right. I think we have to be realistic in the market that we're in. £6 million is a big outlay for our club. If we look back over our spend over the last few years, it's a big outlay. So, is he a player that warrants that kind of relative spend for us? I mean, if you're an English Premiership team, £6 million is peanuts. It's nothing, right? It's you're not buying what they would consider a top player for that money, and I mean that with no disrespect to any player that is valued at that. But for us, we have to look at someone that will come in and do a job for us domestically. Can, as we say, add to the existing quality within the team, can make a meaningful difference throughout the course of a season. And can hopefully help us kick on to that higher level that we want to aspire to, which is Europe. Now, has he done enough, in my opinion? I would say he's done more than, say, O, for example, who was obviously brought in. I would probably say it's a more comfortable investment for me than Bernardo, although that I've got a view on Bernardo as well. And I guess the question you have to answer is, if not Ida, who else is out there that's within a reasonable price range that we are not only capable of going to spend, but actually willing to go and spend? So I think you've got to look at things like his age, his familiarity with the club, how quickly he settled in, his contribution up to this point. It's at the moment, I'd say he's probably 70-30 weighed for me in favour of being signed. But I still think I would like to see a bit more from him. And again, I think, as has been mentioned on the comments, tonight is a fantastic opportunity for him to do so.
Yeah, I think so. But the thing that I look at is, there might be people that we're completely unaware of that we're watching. I'm sure there are on hit lists and short lists and all the rest of it, Chris. But some of the names that obviously we were aware of were the likes of Kvitsgarden, Bojan Miovski was mentioned. And I remember when we went and got Adam Ida, some of the chat around about that time was the fact that, we're taking their cast-offs because they managed to get Sidney Van Hooijdonk in on loan. Sidney Van Hooijdonk's been nothing short of a flop for Norwich since they took him in. And I think at the time, a lot of Celtic fans liked the idea of Sidney Van Hooijdonk. We asked Big Pierre on the night that we had him over in Glasgow if there was any truth in the rumours. He said no, Celtic had not been in touch with him. He goes to Norwich. People are moaning that we bring in Ida, but Ida has contributed. And the way that I kind of see it is we've had a look at him for a year, well, half a year, sorry. He knows the standards. He might end up after 6 months being one of these guys that hasn't played many minutes, but he walks away with 2 trophies. You know, the old Ramon Vega. He won a trophy every 6 games for Celtic or something. Right. Near Beaton won a trophy for every 16 games that he played for Celtic. It was bizarre. But you look at him and you say, right, he's settled in. He knows the standards. Brendan Rodgers obviously rates him higher than O, who has disappeared from view. And so there is always a risk, but you're taking away some of that risk in terms of, is he going to settle? Is he going to settle into the dressing room, into the has he got the character and personality to be part of this team as well as what he does on the park? And Danielle's actually said here that Norwich have confirmed £5 million. Pay the money. Absolutely. We'll have a look at him tonight. I don't think he was great against Rangers. I don't think he had his best game against Rangers at the weekend.
No, and there's been a couple of games where I've thought, wow, he's got Giakoumakis type attributes, pulling goals out of nowhere and good movement, bit of physicality. And then I've seen him in a couple of games where he looks like he couldn't trap a bag of cement, and he's got the first touch like an elephant. So
Giakoumakis could be like that as well.
Well, he could, to be fair, and I think we have to be realistic with some expectations. I think one of the problems for a lot of fans, and I kind of see the point, is when the amount of times we've played Aberdeen where Miovski, for example, who we would expect to be valued round about the same, and he's torn our defence apart, which, to be fair, with some of our performances this year is maybe not a great endorsement, but the point is that he's a proven goal scorer, at least at the domestic level, and looks as though he could potentially kick on. So Ida's being compared to some of these guys, but Miovski's a lot more established in the Scottish game than Ida is. I think Ida's still got good opportunities. He's got a couple of games here. He's not ahead of Kyogo for me in terms of our number one striker. Kyogo, for me, by far and away, is the best striker, the best forward player we've got at the club. But I do think there could be a place for Ida. I just want to see maybe a little bit more consistency. And maybe that's an unfair assessment, because actually maybe he's not had enough opportunities to get a consistent run. But you always felt with Giakoumakis, and again, apologies for bringing him up, but you always felt with Giakoumakis, if Kyogo went out, Giakoumakis could come in and he'd actually do your job. He would actually, he would step up to the mark. I would like to see Ida prove that he can do the same thing from a reliability standpoint, because I think when we brought in O, without doing anything horrendously wrong, never really gave off that level of confidence. I don't think, and I think Ida is in a much better position to do so. So, yeah, I mean, Danielle said 5 million. That makes it even, that mixes it up a little bit. You think, well, 5 million today's terms and with the amount of revenue we're generating, I mean, that's not even what we might get for the Frimpong deal, for example. So, is it low risk? Maybe.
The thing, really keen to hear your thoughts. P comes in. Let me read this. Your pal, John Paul. I'm not sure, is it me that you're referring to, but that's fine. The usual Celtic thing. Who else is out there? Well, actually, that's not the way that I think Celtic should be doing their business, because Miovski we only know about because he plays in our league. I think that Celtic should be aware of if 5 or 6 is your budget, we should know about every player that's available in Europe or further afield, because we should have the data analysis systems that can be scoured to create a shortlist of players who can then be scouted and then presented to the manager, who can then make a decision. So I don't think I spoke about this earlier when Tommy Burns, you made a great point earlier, Chris, on the 12:30 show, that Tommy Burns changed the way that we recruited players, and he did. He started scouting further afield. He started. He was going over to Ajax quite a lot and seeing how they not only develop players but sign players, the recruitment strategies. And we started to sign a lot of guys from the Dutch league, the German league, etc. We know even in the Italian league as well, Anoni and another guy, what was his name? Di Canio. He came over as well. Portuguese football. We were aware of Cadet because he had played against us, of course. But we used to just do that. If a player played against us, and some of the examples I gave was Shuggy Edvaldsen and Bent Martin. He was a real person, by the way. And also, Liam Brady had played against Rudi Vata, Ireland versus Albania. So I get what P means, because I think Miovski's a cracking player. I think if you put him on a Celtic side, he would score you 30 goals a season. I really do. And he's got the age profile and all that kind of thing going for him. I don't know why. Apparently, we were interested in him. I don't know why the deal wasn't done with Aberdeen this season. But, you know, there might be better than Miovski. There might be better than Ida. And if there is, Celtic should be in a position to say, right, we've got a guy who's playing in the Norwegian League, who's better, you know, in terms of the data, who's going to be a better fit for you. And this is how much he's going to earn a week, and this is how much transfer fee is. We need to be better at recruitment. And I think Brendan Rodgers has been talking about it all season. And hopefully we'll see a change and a difference tonight. Now, what else? Hi, JP and Chris. Listen, I don't mind JP. I have been called so much worse, and that's before I even come on live. So we're good. We're good, Craig. It's always good to see you. And do it for Tommy now. We were talking about the sentimentality of this football club. I love it, Chris. I embrace it.
Yeah.
I don't mind that at all. Absolutely. I cannot wait to see the tifo.
It's a club built on sentimentality, right? I mean, it is the foundations, everything it's built on, and you know, the songs, the passion, the previous associations. It's just, yeah, it's one of the magical things about the club, and we spoke about it before we came on the show. Just what it means, something different to so many people, but there's a consistent element, and it's just the way it captures you, you know. And I still feel it every time I drive past the stadium. And I'm fortunate enough to live very close to the stadium, so I get to go past it pretty often. And I just love turning around, looking at it, seeing the lights, seeing the Celtic way, seeing the stadium, some of the banners that are up, and it's everything from being a kid and walking out into that stadium for the first time and hearing the noise, the wall of noise that just hits you. I think sentimentality is a wonderful thing when it comes to football, because it's what it should be about. And tonight, absolutely, I think if I was Brendan Rodgers, I wouldn't even do a team talk today. I would just walk in and I would actually show them that video with Tommy Burns. I would just show them the video of that Tommy Burns and say, this is what it means to every one of those supporters out there. That's what I want you to go out there and channel and play like. That's your team talk done for me. It really is. And that's what it means for me. I know that's sentimental, and you know it doesn't come down to that when the guys go out on the pitch, and you know there's a real standard the guys have got to play. But from a supporter standpoint, yeah, sentimental, absolutely. Tommy, Bobby, I hope we do them proud tonight.
Yeah, you leave the ruthlessness to the gaffers. We're fans. Yeah. We can be sentimental, absolutely. But you know that there are different ways to motivate players, Chris, and we've heard about the stories of the big speeches and playing videos and you know, going down to Blackburn with the headlines on the dressing room wall, men against boys. We've heard all that. It's great. I love it. Paddy Lavery, where's the mug? He's sitting next to him, Paddy. Right? Yeah. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on Friday, my man. Coming down to a beautiful part of the world.
Paul John, can you please give him one of those mugs so he stops giving me abuse in the comments?
Paddy, I will give you a mug on Friday. I will bring a mug along on Friday. Craig reminds us, big game for the Celtic women tonight, 3-0 against Hearts. They are also on the right road towards a league championship win. Their first. It'll be their first league win. Unbelievable. Due a performance from Hatate, I think if you were to be ultra critical of anybody at the weekend, as I say, it was all about positivity all week. Hatate wasn't at his best. And I'm just going to put that into him still trying to get to that peak of his powers. A wee couple of sloppy passes. But regardless of all that, Chris, he is the type of guy who changes a game of football, especially with a tight defence. He can thread passes through that nobody else in the park, maybe other than Matt O'Reilly now, can do. I mean, so all these foibles, any mistakes, etc., you tend to live with them, don't you?
Yeah, I always find the best players are those that have a little bit of eccentricity about them. You know, they're the ones that are prepared to do the pass or the move or the shot that nobody else has really got the balls to go and do. To quote my
taking risks. Taking risks, yeah.
It's a bit of taking risk, and you know what? See, when it comes off, it's wonderful. But it's not going to come off 100% of the time, right? And I think, unfortunately, if you don't have a player like that who can wow you and frustrate you in equal measure, then you don't have a great player. I mean, I remember Paul Di Canio, you know, where we're talking about the Tommy Burns era, and he would turn and he would twist and he would turn and he'd be like, just pull the bloody trigger, and then he would turn and twist and turn and twist and turn and twist and turn and twist, and eventually he'd lose the ball. But when he got it right, by God, did he get it right? And you know, I think you need players like that, and I think Hatate's one. And I'm hoping the game against Rangers, which was a huge game, and I think of all the players, he was the one that was maybe it just wasn't coming off for him. And every player's entitled to an off day, even in games like that. Hopefully, he comes back today, has a good performance, shows that invention, takes that risk, maybe takes the initiative, and fancies a wee shot for outside the box because we know he can do it. And the one thing about a player that takes a risk like that, even if he takes a shot for outside the box, for example, and he gets it on target, doesn't necessarily have to score it. You've got the palm out for the keeper might go to Ida or another player, but if you don't take the initiative, if you don't take the risk, you will never ever prosper from it. So, I really hope this. We've had a great performance from Hatate. Hope O'Reilly's, just on his game because and buzzing after his awards the other night, richly deserved. I hope Joe Hart is pumping his chest and thumping a badge and doing a whole bit. I just want us to be on it tonight. This could be a cracking night. And I know there's people going to Celtic Park tonight. Hope everybody is safe and has a great time. I would love to get down there tonight as well. But I want the fans deserve this. I want this to happen tonight. I do.
The thing is, I considered it. I says to my missus, just you have a wee early night, and obviously half an hour after full time, the Acsom post match will be finished. It then takes an hour to get to Celtic Park from where I live. Is anybody still going to be there? I mean, I could just be the guy that turns up on his Todd.
I tell you what, if you're coming, I'll make a point of going there. If you're coming down, I'll make a point.
Listen, we'll talk about that maybe at half time and possibly at full time.
Depends on the result, right?
It certainly does. Now, how better to prepare for a game though than Joe McAlinden enjoying a pre-match pie on Loch Fyne? Now, it reminds me of a story, a very famous 1986 Love Street, where Celtic had to beat St Mirren by a certain amount of goals and hope that Hearts got done by Dundee. We all know how it went. But what actually happened was Campbell Money was the St Mirren goalie. Frank McGarvey, the late Frank McGarvey, told us this story. Campbell Money was the St Mirren goalie for about 40 years. You'll remember him, right? He was in the Scotland squad and all that. And he, for some strange reason, got really sick before the game. So the kind of sub goalie, if you like, who wouldn't even have been on the bench at the time because that wasn't really done back then, he was called into the first team. It's a guy Gallagher who's holding the ball as the Celtic fans on the transistor radios hear that there's been a goal scored by Dundee's Albert Kidd. And of course, he had been getting stuck into the pies before the game. Frank McGarvey said he'd had 2 or 3 pies before the game, and then he was told he was playing. He had to get the kit on and go out. So talk about a pre-match meal, Joe. Professional footballers have a bit of pie before a game as well. And here we go. Franny reckons that Miovski would be a better deal for that kind of money. Aero 250. Ida literally kept us in the title race by showing his clinical side. And his stats are brilliant. They are. What else does he need to do? He's also scored in a really big game against Rangers at Ibrox, the TH game. He scored a penalty in the shootout against Aberdeen in the semi-final with the Scottish. What does he have to do to be considered good enough? Never mind his hold-up play.
Score tonight. Score a couple of goals tonight. A hat-trick tonight would do it. I think that would do it. I think it's fair. The contrast between the last two comments is important, right? And that's a different perspective. And we all judge players on what we see and how we perceive what they should be doing on the park. And I think, when you listen to someone like Al Morrison, who was on the show earlier in the week, and I love listening to Al. It's such an analytical mindset, and he gives you an insight that you don't naturally get when you just watch the game.
What's he like when you go for the weekly shop, though? Is he the same when you're walking around?
It probably is, yeah. He probably takes about 4
when you're
hours
considering what to buy.
And still probably comes out and says, no, we'll go and try a different show. But I think the point is that he's a player who I think has made a meaningful contribution this season. It's just that we're not used to paying so much money for what at this point in time is essentially a backup to Kyogo, right? And I think that's the difference. We're not used to paying $5 million for a squad player or a substitute, and that's going to take a bit of time for us to get used to. I think if we paid that for Ida, and if we then went out in the summer and strengthened the other areas of the pitch, like centre back, left back, goalkeeper, etc., and spent real good substantial money for us on those players, I think people would view Ida as smart business. I think if Ida is the marquee signing it's a much harder sell for the fans, and I think that's the challenge that he's got, and that's not of his making, right? He can just do what he can do on the pitch. I would say though, go out there tonight, son, score a hat trick, make yourself a hero, win the title. I think fans would warm to him rather quickly.
You write yourself into folklore if you do that. Now, I have no idea, Martin, who you could possibly be referring to. That he's contributed more than a certain £35 million player. Right, I need a prediction, Chris. Give me a prediction for tonight. Are we going to get the point? How are we going to do it?
Do you know what? I'm going to go optimistic. I'm going to... if you'd asked me a couple of hours ago, I said I'd have taken a point. But no, do you know what? Let's do it for Tommy, and let's do it in the spirit of the Tommy Burns teams. 3-0. Minimum.
Okay, I'm going to go with that. Thanks everybody for getting involved. Go and enjoy the game. We'll see you at half time, and hopefully Celtic will be ahead in the game at that stage. Regardless of what happens, we're here at half time, we're here at full time. We might even be up at the stadium. We'll see how it goes. Thanks everybody for getting involved, and thank you to Chris McElwain for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.
On the hoops.